This morning I was just chatting about this weird idea that I had. I've mentioned Jonathan Haidt's book, his My Anxious Generation. He became famous after writing his The Coddling of the American Mind. Now, I've read his books, and they're good, but I don't know why they went so viral, because I'll give you an example. His book, My Anxious Generation, his premise was we need to take away the phones. But then he realized he was wrong, right? Updated on his blog saying, well, if you take away the phones, all they do is pine away for, missing messages. And there's even been a study showing that college students have, pseudo vibrations. They feel messages that aren't actually there. So the real takeaway, as he admits, is not taking away the phone. But he didn't evolve past that. And the example I use is initially promoting the book, they were giving away these lock boxes for adults. So there you go. The problem is not the phones. The problem is our relationship with the phones. Right? Because if you're giving away people lock boxes for the phone, what are we going to lock up all technology? No. The problem is our relationship with the phones. But why? I was just making another voice note, this idea that I realized that before we can learn to heal, we have to learn. Right? Lots of books on learning how to learn, lots of books on learning how to heal, but is there a book out there that teaches us how to learn to heal? And so it struck me. This relates to John Gatto, his book about dumbing us down and our problem with education. And there's a few others, I can't remember who else I had mentioned before, but they all tie together, right? Philosophy. Oh, Jean Baudrillard. He talked about the hyperreal and the simulacra, right? I call it the crisis of prophilicity, right? We're all our online profiles, but we don't know who or what we really truly are. And I talked about this before. Here's a little bit of, again, interdisciplinary wisdom. So often people talk about Helen Keller and this idea that she says that she never felt truly human until she was given language. But that's a dumbing down of what really happened. Because if you look at history, she was taught sign language before, I can't remember the lady's name, but there was a lady who stayed with her and said, listen, I'm going to put up with your bad behavior and figure out how to get through and connect with you. So truly, Helen Keller became a human being when she was seen as one. This is Martin Buber's I and Thou made manifest in the real world. You see this interdisciplinary, right? You have people who are just medical students. You have people who are just education students, philosophy students, language students. What we need is people to be interdisciplinary. Because see this insight? This is philosophy and Jean Baudrillard and Helen Keller. And then John Gatto, that's just educational theory. It all boils down to agency, plain and simple. I mean, it's more complicated than that. But what sets this apart? If you look at the leitmotif through all of these issues, who are the outliers? The ones that are able to learn in spite of the system, the ones that are able to heal in spite of the system, the ones that are able to become whole in spite of the system and everything that fights against it. I believe simply that is agency. I mean, I did a video recently about bucking against the system. Well, that's your agency. That's your free will. When there's so many books talking about we don't have free will, let me just tell you a funny little tidbit. When they did a really famous study of free will, and it got shared quite a bit about how it was debunking free will. Do you know what it actually said in its abstract? This supposed meta study of, consciousness and studying free will actually admitted that, well, the problem with free will is we don't actually engage with it, right? The truth is, if we had free will, would we even use it? So trying to define whether we do or don't have free will becomes near impossible if you're unable to know whether we're using it. Right? It's almost like, if you're trying to judge if someone can ride a bike, but you never have them try riding a bike, it's kind of hard to judge whether they have the skill. That's agency. And I think, just as a final funny little idea, is think about why we have our children. But not why we have our children, sorry. Sorry, I'm thinking this is just off the top of my head. But when we have our children, if you notice, they become very rebellious. And this is John Gatto's idea. Like, boil down his writing and all of his different ideas boils down to simply agency. We rob these kids of their individuality, of their imagination, of their inquisitiveness, of their doubt, of their questioning, of their agency. And, well, the solution is just to give it back. So, stand up, be counted.